All right, so now that we're a little bit more familiar with the basic context of prompt engineering and the role that it's going to play in not only our professional lives, but also our daily lives in coming years, what I'd like to do next is take a look at kind of the evolution of chatbots, just so that you're aware of what makes ChatGPT and other LLMs different from things like basic chatbots that you'd find on, let's say, an e-commerce site. Now, it might seem obvious to you, it probably does seem obvious to you, that there are some key differences here between ChatGPT and, again, the chatbot that pops up on e-commerce sites asking if you need anything or whatever. But it can be very helpful to understand. It can be very helpful in understanding ChatGPT and LLMs to actually sort of narrow in on what those differences are. So what I'd like to do here is just take a brief look at the history of chatbots and how they've evolved to get us to the point where we're at now. So the first chatbot, the first official chatbot, I suppose, at least the first one that received a lot of publicity, was a chatbot called Eliza. And the purpose of this chatbot was to provide therapy, right? I believe it was Rogerian therapy to patients. Now, I don't believe that this was ever actually used in real therapy, but if you want to take a look at what this chatbot was like, there's actually a version of it that you can access online at this URL that you see here. You can also just Google Eliza chatbot, and you'll usually be able to find a version of it running somewhere. But if we take a look at this site, what you'll see is that we have an example of this thing running here, and you can actually talk to it. Now, this is one of the first chatbots, as I mentioned, so the actual functionality that's going on behind the scenes is very, very basic. All right, so if we say something like, hello, Eliza, all right, we see that it responds by saying, what would you like to discuss in this session? And maybe we say something like, I've been feeling a little down lately. And if we hit enter, we'll see that it'll respond, and it'll say, I see, let's try another topic, and we will come back to that issue later. So not necessarily the most helpful therapist in the world, but this was actually a pretty revolutionary thing when it came out, because this introduced the idea that you could actually talk to a computer. This is something that people have been thinking about for a while, but until very recent years, it's not really something that we've truly been able to do. So that's kind of where it all started. From there, it's been a gradual process of going from rule-based systems to AI-based systems. So you can see this if you go to, as I've already mentioned a few times, something like an e-commerce site, or really any site that has that little chatbot in the bottom right-hand corner. Most of those, at least at the time of recording, are still rule-based systems. In other words, they either use keywords in the messages that you enter, right? So if you enter something like, I'm looking for shoes, let's say, it'll use that keyword shoes to direct you to the right department and actually connect you with a human. Now, that's one possibility. Another possibility is that the chatbot might just give you a few options, right? This is kind of similar to when you call your bank and you get that for this department, press 1, for this department, press 2. It's similar to that, where it's not even really a chatbot at that point that you're talking to. It's more just a rule-based system that follows a specific flow chart. But nevertheless, over the past few decades, we've slowly been moving to AI-driven systems that use some sort of artificial intelligence technology to help you out, ideally without having to bring humans into the process, right? If you can handle someone's complaint, for example, just by running a program, that's going to be much more efficient than if you have to have a whole team of customer service agents that you're paying to deal with these people one-on-one. And in many cases, it can also be less stressful for your customer service agents if you have some sort of AI system that's able to perhaps calm down a frustrated customer before handing them over to a real human. But anyway, that's been kind of the gradual process there, is going from rule-based to AI. And in the process, there's been a lot of different sort of ideas and other technologies that have appeared on the scene. All right, now this first idea, the idea of a Turing test, you can definitely read more about this if you want. But the basic idea is that it would be helpful to have a test to determine if something that appears human should in fact be considered conscious. It's an idea that comes from the earlier days of computing, but from there, right, since then, in much more recent years, we've seen things like Siri and Alexa that actually do a pretty good job of interacting with humans, right? You can have, if you have Alexa sitting on your counter, you can say different phrases like, set a timer for 10 minutes or add milk to my grocery list, something like that. And it can do that pretty well. And this obviously involves much more AI than the older rule-based systems. And, obviously in addition to being able to understand human speech, it's also using AI to allow us a little bit of flexibility with how we say things, right? So you don't need to say the exact words in the exact same order in order to get it to do what you want. There's a little bit of flexibility there, which has gone a long way toward helping people adopt these tools more easily. All right, and finally, in more recent years, we've seen the rise of sophisticated AI like GPT-3, GPT-4, and there's lots of other models here. These are the main ones that we're going to be focusing on here. And these are exciting because they really do give the impression, as I'm assuming you've already noticed, they really do give the impression of talking with a human, even though there's really no human involved in that interaction. So you can ask it things like, you can ask it philosophical questions like, what's the meaning of life? And it'll actually give you answers. Now, whether those answers are what you're looking for or not is going to depend, obviously, on not only what questions you're asking, but how you ask them, which brings us back to prompt engineering. And finally, just to give you a little bit of context in this timeline, right? We've gone all the way from Eliza to more sophisticated AI like GPT-4, which we're going to be looking at here along with GPT-3. And that's where we are right now. So who knows what the future is going to bring, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it's going to be very exciting, and also that prompt engineering is going to be extremely helpful no matter what the future brings in terms of AI.